Welcome to 304 Customs Garage. In this episode, we're going to be wrapping up this two-part series of the Ford 888 with Caltracs installation to our V8 S10. In this episode, I plan on covering topics as the shocks I'm going to be using, the rest of our Caltracs, and then we'll also try to touch base a little bit on switching your Chevy brake lines back over to the Ford brake lines. We have a lot to cover, so let's get started. Okay, so a quick little update since the last video, and as I mentioned, there's part one to this, so if you haven't seen that, please go check that out. There's a lot of information in that video, and it'll show you how we got to this point. So, we went ahead and put the caliper bracket and the dust shield on with new parking brake hardware and new parking brake shoes, or pads, whatever you want to call those. I only complain about the parking brake hardware kit that I acquired from a parts store, which appears to be the same from the ones you can get online as well, that at least that I saw, is there's a piece that goes in here. It's kind of like a lever, and that's actually what your emergency brake cable goes to, and it did not have that in it. So I don't know if that's something you have to get directly from Ford. If anyone knows the part number, please let me know in the comments. I'd appreciate it. I need that piece, because if there was one on this from the factory, it either didn't come on here or I threw it away somewhere. So I'd greatly appreciate that. So the caliper bracket and the dust shield are the factory ones that came with this. I just sanded them down, put the rust encapsulator coating on, and then put some chassis paint on each. And then on the axle tube, we went ahead and wiped it all clean, rust encapsulator, and some chassis paint on it all the way up to the differential, which I had previously painted. If you watched the last video, you saw. So that should be good to go now. Everything here is good. We're going to be putting the axles in soon. But first, what I'm going to jump to is this piece here. We're going to go ahead and get off and pop that bolt out here on the bottom, so we can go ahead and put that front piece of the Caltracs on. And then also, we're going to be putting a new bushing in the front. So I'm going to go ahead and get this stuff over here, and we're going to get that bolt out and get that piece in. So I got the front of the leaf spring off on the driver's side finally. I had a real trouble getting that off, and I really don't see how you can do it, taking the bolt off here, without moving the gas tank, if you're keeping the stock gas tank like I am planning to with this build. Because the bolts that hold the front leaf spring, go through the bushing, are in like this, so you have to take the bolt out underneath. And on the driver's side, there's a little cutout shape in the gas tank, but it's not enough room to get this bolt out without moving it. If there's another way to do it, please leave it in the comments for whoever comes across this next time. I just found it easier for me to unbolt the gas tank and just bolt it back in. This is out. And then now I'm going to go over and get this bushing out of the front of the leaf spring, and we'll be right back, and we'll put this Caltrac piece in up here with the new bushing. Okay, so I'm going to do this off camera, but I figured I would show you how I'm going to get these bushings out of the leaf springs here. Is this tool here is actually for ball joints. It's like a service kit, and since I don't have a press, it basically works the same way. It's just a lot more, I guess, elbow grease that you have to put into it. My impact gun is a DeWalt battery powered one, and it's currently charging. And I'm to a point now with this that the ratchet's not working. So I'm using this breaker bar, and I have to take it off, put it on. So I'm going to go ahead and take this out, and then we'll come back here in a minute once we get that out, and we'll put the new one in. Okay, so I finally got this out. Got the rubber piece and the metal piece where the bolt goes in out. I used a socket, my ball joint surface tool for that. And then after that, you got to take this nice metal piece out here. And this is a major pain to get out without the proper tools. But I made do and got it out finally. So what I did is beat down around on the end some. And then I actually took my Sawzall and I cut. There's a little gap here in the leaf spring where it curls around. And you can get a blade in there. And I cut this bushing piece, shell, whatever you want to call this. I cut it across. And then I flipped it over on the side and beat it down with a chisel and a broken flatbed screwdriver, enough to get an air hammer in there. And then I took the air hammer inside the thing and got a hold of a piece in here and pushed the rest of the bushing out, or shell, metal piece, whatever you want to call that. But I finally got it out. So like I said, I'm going to go ahead and clean this up some and get all this gunk out of here before we put the other piece in. And then we'll be back and we'll put the aluminum piece in the side after we get some rust preventative paint on the outside here too, where we scratched it up. So we'll be right back. Okay, so I cleaned the inside of the leaf spring out real good and wiped it down, and then we put some anti-seize inside of there, and then we also put it on the outside of this aluminum bushing, and then I pressed it in using the ball joint service tool, and then just this little cap that comes with it worked perfect, slid right in, no issues. Have some rust encapsulator from Eastwood drying on top of this right now where we scratched it up, scuffed it a little bit. So as soon as that dries up here in about 10 more minutes, we'll jump over here and then we'll put this leaf spring back on and then get that Caltracs piece on the front here. Okay, so we got the leaf spring back on, and now we're going to be putting this piece on from the Caltracs. How we're going to do that is we're going to slip this over, slip the leaf spring through here, and then there's actually a pin that'll go through here, and then it'll also go into the hole here on the leaf spring bushing that we pressed in just a minute ago. Also, when you buy these Caltracs, they include this little purple ceramic lubricant, some kind of Swiss ceramic formula. It says 2800 degrees on it. You probably can't see that on camera, but we're going to use this on that little pin, and then we're going to go ahead and put this on now. And when we put the bolt back in, we'll show you what we're going to do with that also to avoid future problems with the gas tank being in the way if we decide to keep the gas tank, or if we decide to go to a fuel cell in the future. So what we're going to do is slide this on like so. This will tack it. So I got this up here, and now instead of putting the bolt this way where we have to take it out from inside the frame, we're going to put it in this way so we can pull it out this way now for next time should we ever need to take it back out. Okay, sorry I had to cut the last clip short. The air compressor kicked on and you couldn't hear what I was saying. So we got this piece in, as you just saw, and like I said, we're not going to tighten anything up yet as far as bolt wise. What I'm going to do off camera is the bushing for the leaf spring on the passenger side, and then I'm also going to fix the gas tank, put it back in place where it needs to be, tighten it all up, and then after that, after I get that other side buttoned up like this, we are going to jump into the rear end. So hang tight and we'll be right back. Okay, so we finally got our front bushing and the Caltrac piece on the passenger side. That took a while off camera. I'll be glad that I spared you from that. There was a lot of choice words said getting that out. And we finally got it out though. Got an anti-seized, new bolt, and the front Caltrac piece on. So now what I've been working on is I got the axles put back in with the C-clips. Hopefully those won't fall off, which I don't think people have a lot of problems with those, but I guess it's possible. And we got everything tightened down, checked it again, and now I'm adding the differential fluid in the rear, and I've already put 1 quart in this. And what I'm using is the Royal Purple 75 140. And I'm going to try to put 3 in this. I'm not sure exactly how much it's supposed to get, but I've seen anywhere from 2 to 3 to more. So each may be different. I guess that's going to be a little bit based on your pinion angle as well. And then aside from that, we're also going to be adding this friction modifier from Ford. I just got this from a local Ford parts And I'm going to go ahead and put this in now, actually. And then we're going to try to put the rest of those in. Hopefully. We'll see, I guess. But we're going to go ahead and add this friction modifier. Kind of smells like pineapples. But I know this stuff smells terrible when you change it. Hopefully we have a lot of miles before we have to mess with this again. Alright. So I'm going to put these in here and we'll let them drain off. Probably just do one at a time. In the meantime, let's go over here and take a look at our gasket, and we'll grab our bolts for the rear so we can put the cover on the differential after we get it filled up. So if anyone was curious, this is exactly what 3 quarts will get you. It's right up to this little bowl, I guess, if you set that down. So I got 3 quarts in there plus the 4-ounce Ford friction modifier, and we're going to go with that for now. If I need to add more, we will later. Hopefully we don't have to. So let's go over here and take a look at the gasket, and we'll grab the bolts that I'm planning to use for this cover. Okay, so we're going to be using a lube locker differential cover gasket. You don't have to put any silicone or anything like that on it. It's a metal base with coated rubber, and it has like some kind of elasto stuff around the outside of it. Supposedly these are okay. I used it on the transmission panel, so if you watch my motor, or maybe it was the transmission video. And then we're also going to be using these ARP stainless differential cover bolts. These are 12 points, but you'll notice it says Chevy 10 bolt stainless steel rear end cover kit, bolt kit. 4373001 is the part number. However, I got those from Calvert Racing, but the part number, how I figured out these should work, are from a Mustang website. But the only question I have, and we're about to find out, is if those bolts will work with the stock cover, or does it have to be an aluminum cover? So we're about to find that out. And I'm going to get this put on, and we'll be right back, and I'll let you know if these work. Okay, so ARP bolts, even though it said Chevy 10 bolt on the package, do work for the 488 rear from an Explorer with the factory cover and that lube locker gasket that I used. So now it's time for the rear to go back down on the leaf springs, and then we're also going to be doing the rear shocks so we can get this thing buttoned up, and then we're going to go through and torque all the bolts probably after we check everything, make sure this doesn't leak as well. So in the meantime, I'm going to clean some things up, get some parts, and we're going to get this thing back down on there. Okay, so we got everything tightened down. We got all the Caltracs, U-bolts, all that, the blocks back in there. Everything's set where it's supposed to be. We also have the rear end up off the jack stands, or the whole truck off the jack stand, should I say. And now what we're going to be doing is installing this bar. As you see, I've already installed this piece here on the end. And what we're going to be doing now, according to the instructions, is this piece is going to go back in there. There's a bolt, washer, and like a lock nut that goes on this. And since I have it up in the air off the jack stand supported by the weight, this is reverse thread. And what you're going to do is you're going to thread it into this piece here normally. Make sure you run it all the way up. And then okay, so now that we have it all the way up, what we're going to do is loosen it, and it should make the same adjustment on both sides. And you're going to loosen it back up until you can get that bolt back in here on this piece here. get that in, jump in here, put this bolt in. According to Caltracs, the instructions, you also want a little bit of a gap right here, just barely. And that should be good for a preliminary adjustment. And of course, I'm going to adjust this later after I get the whole truck ready to drive, back on its own weight, the bed back on it. But for now, we're going to leave it like this. The only thing left to do is to put this stuff back on, of course. And then we will tighten the nuts on each end to hold it in place, as we have our little gap. And that should be enough preload, or should I say, a good starting point. So now, we're gonna jump over and do the other side, and then we'll be right back. We'll put those shocks in. Don't go anywhere. Okay, so here's the shocks that I'm going to be using on the rear. Oh, there's the rear cover if nobody's seen it yet. Looks stockish, I think. But I have a bunch of bolts to tighten up, and I still need to put the passenger side shock on. But these are just competition engineering. 3-way adjustable drag race shocks. I adjusted the settings to match the fronts that I put on. I also put competition engineering shocks on the front. Just a budget shock that I think should work fine for my application. Like I said, this is a street and strip minded truck, not a race truck. So we're going to go with these for now. So I'm going to go over here and put the passenger side one on, and then we're going to get things wrapped up here tonight, so this video is not extremely long. So if you have any questions, let me know. Okay, so we're going to wrap up our two-part series here on a 4-8 with Caltrac installation. I have some bolts to tighten up still, and we're going to get that done so we get this wrapped up. I did mention at the beginning of this video that we try to touch base on the brake lines. However, that is probably going to get pushed into the next video, which I encourage you to watch as well. And also check out one of these other videos here on the side to see how we've gotten to this point in the build. We're finished with the rear suspension finally. Hopefully we won't have any issues with it. And I believe everything went well other than the leaf spring bushings. Those were a real pain. But I thank you for watching as always, and please subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Leave me some comments. If you like the content we're putting out, let me know. If you have any questions about part numbers or anything that I did or used, please let me know as well. And as always, I thank you for watching. See you next time.